Good morning, I am Pete, also known as Risk for Rewards, or over on Twitter known as @RiskForRewards. I've only got around over 20,000 followers over on Twitter and just under 2,000 here on YouTube. As you can see, video is a little bit different today because I am on holiday at the moment. You can imagine the scours I got when I asked the missus, can I go and take a video? So full English done, and we're down on the beach today, so I'm limited to what notes I have, but I can obviously just go through whatever I had in my head from last night, having a look through all the cards. It's important to try and get the point across, whether it's through videos or it's through written content, just to state the difference between me saying I want to back a 1-2 shot or why I'm backing one, more with a view of going forward to things like the derbies and stuff like that. There's no point in me saying, oh, back this horse, and then afterwards tweeting saying, oh, I've got this at 25-1, etc. So just wanted to get a video out and see how we get on. So, right, let's get cracking. So first race, we have got the 1335, and it's obviously Bay Bridge at Kempton. So I've left this race. Personally, I saw the price 6-4, and then it was about 5-4 last night, now around the even money mark. I mean, it could look a very, very good price. I mean, if you said to Bay Bridge, after his comeback run this year in France, where he ran with his tongue out, and he still finished staying on well, but he's just been so in and out, and I always get concerned when a horse goes into a class dropper, but a class drop such as this, and then the change to the Kempton. I don't think Kempton would be of any issue, and I don't really rate the second favourite. I think it's Isra. I think Bay Bridge has got about £6 on him on official ratings, but the difference in what they've achieved, like you look at Israel's running in races, beating, he did beat Adiyar to be fair, but Adiyar and Hurricane Lane obviously have both been very below par all season, so they're not the same horses as what we've seen as 3-year-olds. So what that form's worth, and obviously you could argue as well though, he beat Adiyar beat Bay Bridge in Prince of Wales, but I just think you either run your race or you don't. I think the thing for me is Bay Bridge is that they want soft ground, and obviously they're not going to get that, which is why they've probably gone to the artificial surface, and I think this is a spin up to go for what his main aim will be. I think they're probably looking at the arc and thinking he's probably below that level, and obviously because he ran so well in, I believe it was the Champion Stakes last year at Ascot, that may well be his, I say ran so well, obviously he won it, beaten by Eid, so it wouldn't surprise me if that was his aim again and they're using this as a spin up. But he should be more than capable of obviously taking care of it and winning that race. But do you want to play it evens? It's just one of those where I thought if he wins, he wins. So it's not something I need to go diving into. And obviously Sir Michael Stout's yard is not exactly in red hot form currently. Despite not liking the second favourite, I just think it's an easy swerve. It's like betting on the first game in the football. Like sometimes you can just miss it. It doesn't really make any odds. You don't feel like, oh, I really wish I'd backed that one. So on to the next race. So next race, 2:15. We're over in Ireland. Obviously I'm not going to go through every single race. I love all the Irish card and stuff, and if I was at home I would go through every single race, but I'm just going to go through the ones that are more potent. So obviously the 2:15, and that's Diego Velasquez. So this originally at the start of the season, and I don't know how much obviously people listen to this video, how much people are in contact with, they hear the chatter and the vibes from stables, but originally this was the Derby horse. This was the horse everyone was speaking of. This from the Aidan O'Brien yard, like forget like all of your new horses like your City of Troyes. If they were only talking about one horse, it was going to be this one. So this came with a lofty reputation, huge price tag, and didn't disappoint. It was sent off 2-5 on debut, which was mighty short, even in a field where they were all maidens. But comes back today, and obviously post Dex was in at 2-5 again. Drifted last night to a more realistic proposition out to like 4-5, and it's now sat around the 8-11, 4-6 mark. It's not a simple race. It's not a point and shoot, and it's a much better race than what it was last time. And there's plenty of maidens. I think he hit about a 93 RPR, and the horse second favourite today was about £2 behind it. So it's no gimme, but what you're putting your money on is the fact of the potential and what Aidan O'Brien does with these. There was a few years ago where he wasn't winning with any of his first time outs. Now he's winning with them, but they're still improving £10. It's just the fact that they're taking a maiden on the way. So for me personally, I think if you want to put him in your multiple, then so be it. But at the same time, if you want to swerve him, so be it. As I said before, the pecking order for me is City of Troy, then Henry Longfellow, and then it would be between this horse and obviously River Tiber. River Tiber showed a lot more, but I think he's going to be a 6-4 along, like a Commonwealth sort of horse. He might end up going to 7, but he's going to be over the shorter trips. But over the middle distance trips, like this horse looks like a Derby horse. Whether that turns out that way, I'm not sure. For me, you could put him in your multiples, but it just depends on what price he ends up. I thought if he was going towards 4 to 5 and evens, I thought that was getting fairer and fairer. But then 1 minute he's 4 to 7, and I just think these bookmakers at the moment, they're pricing up. They all price one thing, and then like Paddy Power will come along, who's obviously a big company. They'll put a price in that's bigger than everyone else, and everyone else will be like, oh, okay, well if they're going that price, they go bigger. And it's the same like last night. You look at the price like of Tahira. Everyone was odds on. Paddy Power went 6 to 5. So then everyone moved to, a few moved to 6 to 5. And then Paddy Power went back to being odds on. So it's just games. Really, the only time that the money counts really is from about 10 a.m. this morning onwards. He's currently around the 8 to 13 mark. Will he win? Potentially, but you are backing on potential. If you really want to have a bet and you want to go for one of the longer shots, then you could always back him for the derby, back him in the win to win today and win to the derby. I haven't backed him currently. I was kind of waiting to see what happens with the City of Troy situation tomorrow, so I was probably going to maybe put him in a double with City of Troy tomorrow. But currently I haven't backed Diego Velasquez. But if he goes out towards evens, then I think it'd be worth a tilt. But as I said, it's all about the bigger races for these, for the derby prospects. On to who do we got? 225. So 225 back over to England. I think it's Haydock. And it's a rematch of not rematch, but it's the Melrose handicap, the second and fifth of the two horses I like. So the second was Denmark and the fifth was Lordship. Lordship was sent off 5 to 1 that day, or 9 to 2 favourite for that race. That's to beat Middle Earth and Denmark and the likes. The difference is with Lordship is I think he was on a 4-timer going into that race. I'm not saying he didn't get into that race, but he was quite far back and not many made too much ground, bar Middle Earth, who looked very good on the day. So the favourite for the race today is Nakib. Nakib last time out bolted up at like about 1 to 9. There's no point even counting it, just showed that he can win a maiden. But prior to that, he'd finished second to Middle Earth off level weights. So those two battled all the way to the line. Since then, obviously Middle Earth, I think, has improved again, and then that's when he won the Melrose, beating Denmark. Denmark finished about a length and 3/4 behind, giving Middle Earth £3. So you're looking at that and you're thinking, okay, so Nakib finished level with him, and off level weights, that I think there's about a head separating them at the line, but it was a messy race. It was only a 4-runner race, I think it was. Whereas Denmark was giving him the weight and finished a length 3/4. So there's going to be very little between them. And when I looked at it, Nakib was about 9 to 4, and Denmark was 11 to 4, 3 to 1. And so I fancy Denmark at the choices, just because I like Denmark as well with the middle distance profile. I've seen a few shrewd judges put Nakib up, but at the same time, I think Denmark's got, and it's very, very lightly raced and unexposed. So he was the pick of those two. But the other horse that I wanted on side was Lordship, the horse that was sent off favourite in the race that Denmark finished in front of him. Denmark finished about 5 lengths in front of him, but on the day, Denmark was given him, I want to say he's given him about £4, but Denmark's been put up in the weights. So now Denmark's given him £7, plus they've gone back to a claimer who had won on Lordship before, Adam Farahar, and he claims 3. So now he's getting the £10 from Denmark. So he's got it's a £6 plus swing. And obviously, he's got a few lengths to make up, but you see this all the time, like the same with Desert Hero when he was sent off London Gold Cup favourite 5 to 1, and he finished like falling out the back of TV. Then next time out, he comes out and he wins. And it's just the way sometimes you catch a handicap, it might not be the day, might be the situation. But the conditions are going to be very similar today, but I just thought the two of those two Dutch together, Denmark and Lordship, I'd rather take those two at the prices against Nakib. So on to 245, and we're going over to Ireland, and I think it's the Matron Stakes, and that's Tahira. So Tahira, as I said, I put her up and backed her at even money. She then went 6 to 5. We've now had Rule 4, and now she went to odds on, and now she's back to back even money. It's frustrating when that happens. I don't know if the Rule 4s actually took anything out of the price, because the Rule 4 would have been 8 to 1 plus. So hopefully you're still getting paid at evens from what you've had yesterday. And it was a good Rule 4, because I thought the biggest danger was her stablemate, Homeless Songs. Homeless Songs was rated £1 higher. The form was very close. And you listen to interviews from Chris Hayes, and it sounds like they like her just as much as they like Tahira, and it would have been a very tough decision for him. But here we are. It is just Tahira. I think Just Beautiful remains a big threat, and obviously Zarinsk with the form around the track, it's hard to knock. It's not like 2 for 2 or 3 for 3. But the thing for me is, you look at Tahira and she just looks like one of those where she's just going places. She's only had one defeat, and that was in the 1,000 Guineas, and it was a close defeat. And we don't know how good the winner of that is, because obviously we haven't seen him since. The only problem is with me here is, and I know many people obviously complain about this from the jump side of things, and I actually absolutely love it, is that with the jumps you only see the horses 3 or 4 times. But when you see them, you know what you're getting, and they are 110% all in. Whereas Dermot Weld could say, after the race, he could say, Tahira won it anyway, she was only 85%, she's getting ready for France in 3 weeks' time. Or she could get beat, and he says exactly the same. They literally, some of these trainers, it's not they're prepping in a Group 1, but they're not afraid to put a horse in a Group 1 at 90-95%, knowing that there's another opportunity to run in another Group 1 in 3 weeks' time, because it's a saturated market, and it's just not an issue. Like, you've got another one, obviously, Ascot on soft ground, you've got another one. So she's had a break, she comes here, but I just think she's looked good so far. And where there's a race where there's plenty of them in behind, like the likes of, I think it's Jumbie and the lot, where you just think you've had so many chances to win Group 2s and Group 3s, to come here and beat a horse like Tahira, who's a Group 1 winner, not for me. So yeah, Tahira, I'm more than happy with it, even money. I'll be disappointed if she gets beat. And again, on the flat, we spent the most of the season. Disappointing. Right, 320, big race a day, Irish Champion Stakes. The bottom line for me was, I looked at the market and I just thought, do I want to be with a 3-year-old? Do I want to be against him? Obviously, anyone who followed last year knows how much I loved August Rodin. Obviously, did us all a massive favour in the Derby. Whether it was 16-1 or 4-1, the horse still won. Incredible training performance. But the problem is with that is, you look outside of that, it was a flop in the 2,000 Guineas. He wins there. Then he scraped home from Adelaide River, which a lot of people argued in reality should have finished second in that race. Still obviously a Group 1, but in behind it completely fell apart. So if you weren't up the front, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. So it wasn't like he was still beating a good horse. It was the back end of the race kind of fell apart behind them. And then obviously he completely bombed last time out at Ascot. So in reality, I think you've had 2 shocking runs, 1 average run. I know it's picking up an Irish Derby, so you can't call it average, and then 1 monster run in the Derby. So you're taking a price based on him, which horse are you going to get? And then the other one, obviously King of Steel, that was the horse that I wanted to back originally, but I just looked at the prices, and when I was looking, it was like 7-4, 2-1. Since then they have drifted a bit. I think they're more like 3-1, but that's still, you're getting even money to field if you back both the 3-year-olds. But the start of the season, I thought, oh, that's absolutely stealing money. But when you listen to the response from Kevin Stott, and he said, no, I think I was fairly beaten by Hookham and Westover in the over at Ascot, and obviously that's great form still, but it wasn't like he was close to them. Those two were well and truly in front. And I just think you're looking behind, and like Luxembourg wasn't given a hard race that day, and although he finished a good 4 lengths behind King of Steel, their weight allowance is getting smaller and smaller. So like, obviously they start the season, I think last time out they were probably getting maybe £10 plus, and I think they get about 5 or 6 today. So it's not like, they need to be improving with the age throughout the season. So it would not surprise me if King of Steel or August Rodin obviously got the job done. But I just thought at bigger prices it made sense to roll the dice. So obviously now, unfortunately, our Riff is one non-runner. I'm going to roll the dice with the 2 who finished 1-2 last year, and that's Ernesto and Luxembourg. Luxembourg, again, he's had a very mixed campaign, but this is what Aidan O'Brien does. He has these horses where you're like, well, he's literally finished 5th there, he's finished 7th there, he's done there, but you've got no idea that Aidan O'Brien's got that much manpower, that much horsepower, that he can roll the dice in the big races. If they win, brilliant. If they don't, he's just keeping the fitness ticking along, and he'll have these big aims. And it's so hard to think that this would not be Luxembourg's big aim last year, having won it last year. And the same for Ernesto. They're talking about the arc afterwards, but you'd have to think this is, well, the connectors have said this is his early season aim. So I just think at the bigger prices, they're both, I think Luxembourg's around 9-1. Obviously they were bigger price yesterday, but that was because Al Riff was in. But I think they're about 9-1 and 7-1. And it's not a race I'm going to go mad on, because I do think it's a brilliant race, but it's a brilliant race because there's no standout, like as in it's a competitive race, rather than the fact you're like, Jesus Christ, it's like, that's an absolute monster. This season's not really been like that. We've had lots of like flops, ups and downs, Like Paddington was a standout who just was racing every 3 weeks and hadn't been beaten. But then as soon as one horse gets beaten, people are like, yeah, but he only beat Emily Upjohn there, and then he only beat that horse there, and oh, what did he actually beat? So it's the same with everything in racing. But I just think it's a brilliant race, but I'd rather roll the dice with both of those two. And obviously you can go each way, but for me I'll just do 2 small win bets on Ernesto and Luxembourg, last year's 1-2. And obviously they don't get all the weights and stuff that they would last year, but at the same time, King of Steel and August Road Inn could be absolute monsters, but they haven't shown it consistently, in my opinion. So then we go on to 3:35. So we're going over to Shaquille. So Shaquille's actually surprisingly on the drift this morning quite badly. Not really sure what's going on there. Like I thought it was priced up Antepost about 2-1, and then I thought when he went, they priced him in at 4-5, 10-11. I thought that's probably about his price. And then he went even money, and then I checked about an hour ago. I don't know. Obviously, this time now is about 11:30. Checked about an hour ago, and it was 6-4. So I don't really know what's going on there. It is a brilliant racing behind. Like I could make a case for so many horses, depending on the way the race sets up. So like the likes of Regional, really like that horse. Didn't really get the run of the race last time out, and I just think you can make a case for many that he is an absolute standout. But the issue is that I've said that someone asked me about this about 3 weeks ago when he was a much bigger price than what he is now. And I said the problem is that Shaquille is doing everything wrong and getting away with it, but you don't keep doing everything wrong and getting away with it. You either learn and you just get better and better, or you just get found out. And it might not be here, it might be Ascot, it might be another time, but you can't keep missing the break and racing as keen as he does. Like this race, the last race that he won was a lot lighter on depth, whereas this race today is littered with. They're not at his level. Don't get me wrong. Obviously I haven't got any sort of form here, like as in stats and numbers. But I'd say just guessing off the top of my head, he's probably £6 clear minimum. But at the same time, if he breaks on terms and he doesn't over race, he'll be long gone, and they won't know what's hit him. But at the same time, his tendency to do both of those, eventually one of these horses is going to get a good ride. He's not going to break on terms. He'll over race, go past him, and something's going to pick him up. Will it be today? I don't know. So for me, I'm just watching with fascination. If you like him, I wouldn't put you off. And I had him at about even money. So if he's 6-4 and you do like him, then fill your boots, whatever you like. But for me, I just think it's an easy leave, because I just fear that day where he is going to, he's not learning, put it that way. It's like a kid when you like, do this, and you'll get better. He's not doing it. He's just running to the same level. He's as good as he was. It's just a phenomenal level that he stands. And if he breaks on terms, you'll see like a Lady Aurelia performance. If he breaks on terms, he could end up getting out in front and he'd be long gone. But just his consistency to miss it, 3 or 4 times now? I know obviously he's won the Group 1 Commonwealth and stuff like that, and much better races, but it's not his D-Day today, whereas some of these will have primed for this race only for like the last 3 or 4 months. So there's enough in there for me to say I'll just give it a swerve. So 4:30, and that's Adelaide River. So this again is a really tough race to assess for me, because Adelaide River's a horse I really liked, but it's one of those where you want to back him at a bigger price. I'd rather back him in a race like, say, the Irish Champion Stakes today, where it was a big field, get him at like 33s or 50-1. And if he runs into a place, great. If he wins, he gets the job done. I just don't know what level he's like, as in if he'll get the job done when it's finally his turn. So 11-8, I didn't want to touch him, but he's going out towards 13-8, 7-4. If I can get 7-4, 2-1, I will think about it, because his form, obviously beating the Oaks winner, Soul Sister, over in France, and finishing behind Feed the Flame, who is obviously 2nd or 3rd favourite for the Arc. That's rock solid form. Obviously 2nd behind August Road Inn, despite the race falling apart in the Irish Derby. That's solid form. And I thought he ran a fair enough race in the English Derby before he basically was like, yeah, we don't need you anymore. So you look at his competition, and yeah, this is where I struggle. There's another horse in the Qatar colours who I liked, but that's been well back now. It was 6s last night, it's now 7-2. So I wouldn't put you off that as a saver. And the same with Al Assi. It's just not a horse that I've ever really warmed to. I just think the last 2 races he's won were absolute pony. And I know that obviously people will be like beating the horse of James Horton's, who I kept putting up myself. And I just, every time I've looked at those two races, I just thought I can't find anything to take him on with. Whereas this time I think you can. I think you could easily take him on with Adelaide River. So if the price comes, I will tweet in about half an hour's time my final selection. And if he is 7-4, 2-1, I might have a little play. And then if I need to have a saver, I will. Just remember, when I say like having a saver, whether it's to save your stake or whether to make a smaller profit, like there's literally like no shame in doing that. Like you could back, say you back a 6-4 shot and you're like, oh, I want to have a saver, and it's like, I don't know, 9-1. That, if you want to back it to win the same amount, that's like putting £8 on the 6-4 shot and £2 on the 9-1 shot. You still win 20 quid and double your money. It just means you've turned either of those results into an even money shot rather than a 6-4 shot. Too many people get hung up that how can you back, like say if you backed, say you wanted 3 or 4 in the sprint today with Shakir, or how can you back a 6-4 sprint and then back 2 9-1 shots? Of course you can. You might couple them, you could have 3 or 4 coupled and it pays 4 to 5. It's how strong you believe those 4 are over the rest of the market. So just don't be afraid of backing more than one shot in a race. And then on to 505. So don't get me wrong, this isn't going to be a strong fancy because you can make a case for so many of these in this race because it's a standard Irish, very strong handicap for the first 6 or 7 have all been laid out for it. They're all from top yards and they're all top trainers. So don't get me wrong, it's not me saying, because I know everyone normally gets to the end of the day and they're like, oh, Lompong, it's the last race of the day. That's not the case at all. But Nusret was phenomenal last time out. The way he scythed, and Danny Sheehy absolutely scythed through the field. You could argue maybe he didn't find as much for pressure, like as he didn't go away, but still found enough when they came back to him, he still found enough to go further and to win going away. And I was like, well, he's going to have been put up a fair bit. He's only been put up £2. So if he runs to that sort of level again, he's definitely the one to beat. And he's now 9-2, 4-1, 9-2. I've only gone for a win only bet personally, but you can get each way 5 places. Just depends on the type of punter you are. Yeah, it's obviously it's completely up to you. But I just thought, again, I can make a case for 3 or 4 at the front end of the market. But I just thought the fact that he's been there, he's done it. You know he's good for the flat. He's good over the distance. A lot of people arguing he doesn't like this way round, so we'll find out if that's the case. But for a £2 rise under the same jockey, same conditions, I think that's more than fair to give him a roll. Right, we'll move over to Sunday. So a quick recap on Saturday. 13.35 Baybridge, I'm happy to watch. 2.15 Diego Velasquez. If you want to back him for the Derby or win today in the Derby, I would not put you off that whatsoever. Obviously I've done City of Troy and Henry Longfellow. But if you back 3 horses and they're all 16-1 and you back them all win only, if any of them win, if you've had like £1 on each of those, you're still getting £17 return. So from your £3 that you've staked, you're still making £17 total, so £14 profit. So, I mean, too many people get too hung up on you can't back that amount of horses. You do whatever you want, trust me, because it still gives you that warm fuzzy feeling over 9 months when you're sat on, say, 3 16-1 shots that are 4-1 joint favourites in the market. And you never know who's going to get injured and who aren't. So it is what it is. But if he drifts, I may back him. Again, I'll update when the prices have changed, about 12:30. 14.25 Denmark and Lordship. 14.45 Tahira. 15.20 Onesto and Luxembourg. 3.35 I'll watch Shakil. 4.30, depending on the price, I'll see what price Adelaide River is. And I might have a save on the Qatar horse on his price. 17.05, so 5.05. I've already backed Nusret. And that's all for Saturday, all 100. So yeah, so it's only a few win bets to be fair. Right, on to Sunday. So again, more talking rather than the fact that it's all about backing the winners. I've only looked at the 3 main races so far because they're the most potent talking points. Obviously, Ylang Ylang, 3.25. I put this up for the Oaks, put up for the 1,000 Guineas. Aidan O'Brien has said they're going to do some sort of different thing this time around in the fact that they're going to drop a ridge, not going to go out front. It's always a bit of concern. It's almost like you're inviting trouble by trying to teach her something. So if that is the case, I don't know what will happen. She may not she might not be an even money shot by the time she goes a furlong out when she's stuck in the pockets. But at the same time, you're either got the quality or you're not. So for me, I normally back these horses that I back for the 1,000 Guineas in the Oaks. And while they're unbeaten like she is, I'll roll the dice again. So if I'm getting even money tomorrow on Ylang Ylang, I think the second favourite is the horse, I believe, right? Yeah, second favourite, I think. Is it Vespertino or something like that? Probably get mixed up in my races because I've got no form here. But the second favourite, I think, is the horse who's won since, who finished behind Ylang Ylang anyway. So, but if she's going to be an Oaks horse or a 1,000 Guineas horse, then she's got to be going close here. So she's top of the list, and if you're getting, I think it's 10 to 11 now, I'd rather wait, see what happens with the money throughout the day, and I'll back her. Or if I'm not backing her, I'll just watch the race, because I wouldn't take anything else. I don't want to be backing her at 4 to 6, especially as fillies and mares are very temperamental. But if she's around the either money mark, then I think that's fair game. You can't be saying, I think this horse might win the 1,000 Guineas or Oaks, and then not saying she'll win it. Then again, Aidan O'Brien's done that with a lot of his fillies and mares, like horses like Love, where he teaches them something and then they learn, and then they come back and they get better and better. They might not win, say, tomorrow, but then they go and win the Classics next year, and that's what he does. So if you do back her and she does get dropped out, be prepared that obviously you could lose your money, but it doesn't mean that she won't be winning in the future. 4 o'clock, City of Troy, Monster Alert. I've got absolutely zero thought process of opposing City of Troy. I don't know what the situation is going to be. I mean, Paddy Power have gone as big as 4 to 1 on Henry Longfellow and City of Troy, one of them not running. So that, to me, if they're as brave as to go 4 to 1, that would say to me that there's a very strong chance of them not. Sorry, 4 to 1 on both of them running, 1 to 7 on one of them not running. So if they're happy to go as big as that for a price that they're not going to run, so I can't see both of them running. I think they put them both in, and it will just depend on like the ground and stuff. As long as they're happy enough for City of Troy to take his chance, I think he'll take his chance. It'll only be Henry Longfellow if they've got some reason that why they don't want to run City of Troy, because Henry Longfellow's aim is in 3 or 4 weeks' time. I can't remember if he's the Dewhurst or the Futurity horse. Obviously Aidan's split them all up, but this has been the plan. The National Six has been the plan for City of Troy for quite some time, according to O'Brien. So I'd expect it to be him that turns up. But obviously you're a rock and a hard place at the moment, because you back him at 4 to 5 now, and then if Henry Longfellow's back 3 to 1, you could end up with like a 20 to 25p rule 4, which could turn it into, I don't know, maybe 4 to 7 shot. Or you could wait till he goes non-runner, and then they might price him at like 1 to 2, 1 to 3. But you've still got Bucanero Forte, who's a very, very good horse, and will definitely put up to whoever's left. So it's definitely no walkover. I just think that if it is City of Troy that's the one left, that City of Troy is an absolute monster, and I just think he'll get the job done. If it's Henry Longfellow, it'll be an interesting race. I do still think Henry Longfellow might be better as well, but I think City of Troy is a machine, and if they both run and City of Troy's like evens, I'd be still going City of Troy. But I think Henry Longfellow will be a non-runner. It's just whether you choose to play it now and accept the rule 4, or whether you brave it, wait and see what the price is after the rule 4. Probably, I'd imagine he'll probably win with something like Diego Velasquez today, and then he'll be like, oh, so what's the deal with your 2 horses, Aidan? And he'll be like, oh, I'll put them both in just in case of this, blah blah blah. He's like, but it'll only be this one running. Because at the end of the day, it's no skin off his nose. It's probably just down the road to take him down there, and he can just pull whichever one out tomorrow. Right, and then finally on to Kyprios, 4:35. So this kind of gives a few hints. So for me, I'm not saying I am all over. I can't even remember what the name is. So basically, this race has offered so much confusion because there's mixed chat from Aidan O'Brien saying, oh, Kyprios will need it. Like 2 weeks ago he said, oh, he's definitely going to need it. Whatever he does will be a bonus. It's all about like going forward further targets, so like say France or Ascot Champions Day. And I was like, right, brilliant. So look to back him for those races further down the line. And then suddenly in the last few days he said, oh, I can't believe how much the stable have managed to turn him around, and how good he's looking, how ready he's looking and stuff like that. And it's just like, hang on a minute, what's happened here? Does this mean that suddenly he's now a machine? And well, now he's back to order, and he's gone from like, he was like 3 or 4 to 1, and he's now 11 to 8 favourite. And I just think that's way too short. I mean, not that he can't win, but he's coming off a monster layoff. It's over a long distance trip. A lot of these horses don't even come back to that level after injury, so I think you're taking a lot of risk if you're backing him at 11 to 8. So that takes you over to the other Aidan O'Brien horse, the mare, who I cannot think for the life of me what her name is. Really good horse, but she needs soft ground. So I expected her to be pulled. And maybe we might get an odd runner again with Aidan O'Brien, with one of those two not running, because I thought he's going to need it, and I thought she wants soft ground. So maybe they run her anyway, because I think her targets are definitely, I was thinking that she's going to be a big player in the stayers. She finished ahead of horses like Coltrane in the Gold Cup, and I think she's a huge player. She's 6 or 7 to 1 now for the Ascot stayers in October. And if she wins obviously tomorrow, then that will shorten, but she's not going to be on her favoured ground, so if she wins it's going to be despite the ground. And she might well win, because obviously if Kyprios doesn't run to his level due to his injury, and they do just have it as a run out, the other main market rival is Eldor. So you've got a horse coming back off an injury who you don't want to back because he's too short and he's just had an injury. You've got a horse that they've adamantly said must have soft ground, and then you've got Eldor who loves the fast ground, but he's just not shown his spark. He's maybe shown it once at York when he carried a penalty and finished ahead of the likes of Broome, but since then you've just not really seen a lot from him. So for me, that's just it's just going around in circles. So I'm going to wait and see what the ground's like, see who's going to be standing. But it would not surprise me, especially if the ground's rattling fast today and tomorrow. It wouldn't surprise me if there's a few non-runners from some of these big horses. But yeah, with a view to Ascot Champions Day, I love Kyprios, and I cannot think of a mare that wants the soft ground, but of Aidan O'Brien's in that race, for her going forward at Ascot. So yeah, that's just a quick summary of Sunday. So Sunday, Ylang, 10 to 11, Edo Money. I feel like I'm happy to roll the dice and keep rolling with her. City of Troy, 4 o'clock. I think he's very, very tough to beat. I'm hoping Henry Longfellow doesn't go, because obviously he's my other shot that I like, and I don't like seeing the two going up this early in the season. And then 4:35 is a watching brief, but obviously with a view to Ascot for Champions Day, because I'll be fingers on the buzzer. I will obviously put out tomorrow, I will say I've backed this horse before runs here, or etc. If I'm going to back Kyprios or the horse I can't figure the name of, for Aidan O'Brien for Champions Day. But I will just have to wait and see how we get on. We'll see how today goes. So yeah, obviously pretty loose notes because I'm on the beach at the moment. But good luck wherever you're back. It is a really, really short weekend. Obviously I haven't even covered any of France, so I will cover France. France have got big trials running as well, so like the likes of Feed the Flame, you've got Iracine, and you've also got a huge clash with Warm Heart against the French horse that flopped at Goodwood when got stuck in a pocket. But again, a lot will depend on ground. Like, even though it's really fast ground here, sometimes you look over in France and they're on soft still. So I have to sit down and look at all those, and I will put a tweet out for all of those. But basically, at the end of the day, lads, it's the flat, and ladies, it's the flat. I wouldn't be going nuts, despite the calibre of horses, because the jumps is just around the corner. And speaking of jumps, whilst we're on the subject, obviously they've ruled out Impervious, so with a little bit of an early season scare, she's having an issue. They're aiming to get her back after Christmas. So with that, I'm going to throw out a nice free early one. So I backed yesterday at 25 to 1, and there is 25 to 1 still available. Mascada. So obviously it might be one of many horses I picked for the Mayor's Chase, and it was just one when I looked at the market and I thought, you've got to back something into this market while it's still open. Looked at everything in front and I thought, no. She was mega impressive last year at Cheltenham when picking up the handicap, and she absolutely bolted up. Her numbers are fair, and you look at the form behind, you look at her form, she's only had, I think, 4 runs for Henry de Bromhead. And she's won 2, obviously 1 being the huge Cheltenham handicap. You look at her numbers, her RPRs, and she's already at the same level as what the likes of like an Impervious would have done. And the difference is obviously she'd have to, well, I don't know if she's aimed at the race, I'm just hoping she will be aimed at the race. And she would have to step up and trip because she won over 2 miles. So it would be up to 2 mile 4. But the thing is, she's won over 2 mile 4. She loves soft ground, so she may get at Cheltenham, she may not, but that's the risk you always take. But the fact she's only had 4 races with Henry de Bromhead, I just thought 25 to 1 in a market that it'll probably catch up with itself maybe Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, and they might just start taking points off. The 33 to 1 shots might be 25s, and then they may drift out. But the problem is with a lot of Antepost is they'll clip them in, but they just never push her back out. So I just thought one at a bigger price, 25 to 1. She was a Cheltenham winner last year, only had 4 chances of Henry, won 2 of them, fell on another when she would have won. And another race was just a no-show against the boys, finished 10th in a handicap. Yeah, she's been campaigning handicaps. You look at her RPRs and they're not far off what the likes of Impervious and Allegory Devassi did. And at the same time is that Impervious, when you look at what Impervious achieved, she was a hurdler. She was showing average form. very average form. She improved for a fence. So this horse is obviously improved for a fence, improved for going for Henry de Bromhead. And yes, she's running a handicap. So that's something to say she can't run in graded races this year. So yeah, I just think she fits a similar profile, and at 25 to 1, it's a roll of the dice. I mean, there will be definitely many more horses to come in the mare's chase, but as I said earlier, you could back 5 25 to 1 shots. If you have £1 on each of them, it costs you a fiver, you still make 20 quid profit. And obviously if you're having more than £1, you don't have to do the maths, so it adds up pretty quickly. So I'll be back in the next few weeks with how I'm going to do my Antepost and what my plan is. Hopefully my website will be finished and built, ready for the Cheltenham Festival. So I have been backing a few horses, and I want to get them out there before the prices change. So hope you all have a good weekend, enjoy, and I'll be on Twitter putting everything selection wise up. Yeah, hope you find a few winners. Cheers.